I never planned to buy my cousin's company, but Jared never planned to stop mocking my tiny firm either. Life has a funny way of balancing the scales. The annual Preston family holiday gala was in full swing at my aunt's estate in Charleston. Jewel-toned cocktails in hand, crystal chandeliers twinkling over designer shoes, and ego-drumming conversations. I stood quietly near the dessert table, sipping club soda from a vintage coupe glass, watching Jared hold court by the grand piano. The acquisition's almost finalized, he boasted to a rapt audience of relatives. Once StratusCorp merges with Altair Digital, I'll be overseeing the entire Southeast Division. He adjusted his cufflinks like he was in a cologne ad. Jared had always known how to perform. Our family lapped it up, especially my aunt, who beamed at him the way she used to when he won debate championships or interned on Capitol Hill. "What about you, Celine?" Uncle Mark asked, his tone laced with artificial sweetness. "Still running that little, what is it again, strategy service?" I gave a polite nod, already picturing the legal team waiting for my signature the next morning. "Yes, still running my firm." Jared chuckled without looking at me. "Still operating that tiny outfit, huh? How many people is it now? 4, 5, 8, I said flatly, but didn't elaborate. Let him think Peregrine Strategies was just a boutique consulting agency doing marketing plans for mom-and-pop shops. Let him think I was still the quiet cousin who quit corporate life in her late 20s with nothing but a laptop and a rented co-working desk. "You know, Celine," Jared said, swirling his drink like a Bond villain, "I could speak to our VP at Altair. Get you an actual role, something steady. You're what, 35 now? Stability's important." My mother gave a small, tight smile. "That's very kind, Jared." I clenched my glass a little tighter, recalling the acquisition contract sitting in my inbox at home, where Peregrine Strategies was preparing to finalize its majority stake in Altair Digital by the end of the week. "I appreciate it," I said evenly, "but I'm doing just fine." Jared shrugged and turned back to his audience. Anyway, everyone, guess who's showing up tonight? Altair's CEO. Michael Liu. He's basically family now. Gasps rippled through the room. Aunt Claudia clutched her pearls, nearly spilling her wine. The front door opened moments later, and there he was, flanked by 2 associates. Michael Liu scanned the crowd, then his eyes landed on me. He walked straight over and extended his hand. "Esme Preston," he said, warmly, "it's good to see you again. Are we still on for tomorrow morning?" The room went silent. Jared's smirk vanished. "Absolutely," I replied. "I'm looking forward to finalizing everything." "Michael Liu? Coming here?" Jared's voice practically dripped with self-satisfaction. Our aunt clapped her hands in delight. "Oh, Jared, that's wonderful. What an honor." I glanced at my watch, 8:27 p.m., right on schedule. I knew exactly why Michael Liu was attending our family's holiday party, and it had nothing to do with Jared's exaggerated importance to Altair Digital. The room buzzed louder as Jared continued parading his imaginary throne. With each pour of top-shelf bourbon, his claims grew more outlandish. He ranted about how he'd lead post-merger restructuring, streamline legacy systems, and revolutionize Altair's market approach. "Altair needs new energy," he declared, lifting his glass. "Liu's solid, but too traditional. Careful, I'm ready to take risks, make bold moves, lead." I almost felt bad for him. Almost. The doorbell rang, sharp and deliberate, at 8:30 p.m. Jared adjusted his collar, motioning for everyone to compose themselves. "Okay, folks, let's keep it classy. Michael Liu isn't just my CEO. After this merger, he'll practically be family." The grand double doors swung open. Michael Liu entered with quiet gravitas, his tailored overcoat draped elegantly over his arm. His silver hair gleamed under the foyer chandelier, and the room instinctively quieted at his presence. But instead of walking toward Jared, his eyes scanned the room and then landed on me. He smiled. "Miss Preston," he said, striding past Jared without so much as a nod. Thank you for the invitation. I wanted to personally thank you for making this transition so seamless. Jared blinked. Sir, you know my cousin? Michael turned, genuinely puzzled. Of course I do. He glanced between us, then addressed the room. Celine Preston is the reason I'm here tonight. She's the one who acquired Altair Digital. Silence crashed over the room like a wave. Jared's tumbler slipped from his hand and hit the Persian rug with a soft thud. My aunt gasped and steadied herself against the buffet table. Our uncle looked like someone had unplugged him. That's not possible, Jared whispered, voice hollow. She runs some local firm, does marketing work for small shops. I gently placed my coupe glass on the mantel. Actually, cousin, Peregrine Strategies is a bit more than that. We're a global acquisitions and restructuring firm. And as of yesterday, we hold the controlling stake in Altair. The truth was out. The firm they'd laughed off for years? It wasn't tiny, it was massive, silent, strategic, powerful. While they hosted galas and traded war stories, I built an empire, one that now included Jared's entire division. He looked like he might be sick. As for your promotion, I said softly, we'll be discussing some organizational changes. The silence in the room was crushing. You could almost hear the delicate machinery of pride, assumptions, and denial grinding to a halt in everyone's minds. Jared still hadn't moved, his empty glass hanging limply from his fingers. Michael Liu, calm as ever, continued speaking as if he hadn't just shattered my cousin's entire worldview. Excellent. Miss Preston's acquisition team was exceptionally sharp, he said, gesturing toward me with the kind of professional admiration my family had never once shown. The way Peregrine structured the buyout, timing, leverage, compliance, it was masterful. He glanced at Jared. Your cousin is one of the most strategic minds I've worked with. Jared flushed, from pale to crimson in seconds. This is some kind of joke, he stammered, searching the room for backup. Celine doesn't, she can't. Can't what? I asked, my voice even. Can't run a multi-billion-dollar firm? Can't outmaneuver a legacy board? Can't be more than just your freelancing cousin who left a stable job to chase a pipe dream? Our aunt finally spoke, her voice thin with disbelief. Celine, darling, why didn't you say anything? I turned slowly to face her. Because none of you ever asked, or wanted to hear it. Remember last Christmas? I added, when Jared joked about my internet hobby and you all laughed like it was cute? Or the year before, when Uncle Mark suggested I take community college classes to get back on track? Uncle Mark winced. We were just worried about you. Well, I said, swirling the last of my soda in the glass, Peregrine Strategies now manages over $12 billion, 0 cents in global assets. In the past 3 years, we've acquired 17 companies. That tiny firm just bought Altair Digital for $4 billion, $200 million, 0 cents. Aunt Lillian gasped. Someone dropped a cookie platter. Jared's face contorted like he might actually scream. You can't do this, he hissed, stepping closer. You can't just buy my company. I've worked there for 8 years. I'm supposed to be the next division director. Michael Liu cleared his throat. About that? No, I said, cutting him off gently. Let me handle this. I turned to Jared, locking eyes. We need to talk about your role at Altair. His voice cracked. My role? I earned that promotion. You can't just walk in and... Your office, I said firmly. Now. The crowd parted as I led him down the hallway. Behind us, murmurs and shocked whispers filled the space. Jared slammed the door the moment we stepped inside. His executive mask? Crumbling fast. If you want to hear what I told Jared behind that office door, and how everything changed after, make sure to subscribe. The next chapter is where the real reckoning begins. How long? Jared demanded, his voice sharp. How long have you been planning this? Was this your twisted revenge scheme? I calmly sat in the leather chair behind his desk. His prized possession, his symbol of status and control. It felt oddly fitting. Across from me, Jared paced in tight, erratic lines like a man trying to outrun the truth. Believe it or not, Jared, I said, not everything is about you. Peregrine has been analyzing Altair for years. The fact that you work there? I shrugged. A curious coincidence. Coincidence? He gave a dry, bitter laugh. You expect me to believe that? You've always been jealous of my success. Without a word, I opened my phone and navigated to my banking app. A few taps later, I held up the screen. His eyes locked onto the number and widened. That can't be real. It's my personal liquid net worth, I said evenly. Just the accessible portion. Peregrine Strategies is worth significantly more. So, Jared? Remind me again, what does success look like to you? He sank into the guest chair across from me, the heat draining from his anger. His shoulders slumped. Why didn't you ever say anything? Would you have listened? I leaned back, folding my hands. You were all so sure I was failing. Remember when I missed Uncle Mark's birthday dinner, and you told everyone I probably couldn't afford to fly home, that I was too embarrassed to admit it? His silence was answer enough. I was in Singapore, I continued, negotiating the Turner Industries acquisition. $2,800,000,000, 0 cents. But all of you assumed I was just making excuses. His face took on a pale, greenish hue. The Turner deal, that was you? He asked hoarsely. Then, the Madison merger last fall, the Carson buyout last spring. All Peregrine, I confirmed. We've been building a global empire in silence, while you were too busy lecturing me about real jobs. He buried his face in his hands. And now, he whispered, you own Altair. You own my company. Yes. I stood and smoothed the front of my slate gray dress. And as the new controlling partner, I have some concerns about the West Coast Division's leadership. His head snapped up. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't I? I reached into my leather tote and pulled out a navy folder I'd prepared days ago. Let's talk about your performance reviews, Jared. The red flags. The compliance shortcuts. The missed deadlines. That's standard industry practice, he barked. No, I said, my voice low and firm. It's sloppy, it's arrogant. And under Peregrine's leadership, I said, sliding the folder into place, that ends now. Jared slumped back in his chair, the fight in him visibly draining. So that's it, he muttered. You're firing me? Your own cousin? Not firing, I said calmly. I'm offering you a choice. I opened the folder and turned it toward him. You can take a lateral transfer to our Minneapolis branch. Same pay, no promotion, fresh start. Or you can resign and we'll provide a 3-month severance package. His mouth fell open. Minneapolis? But my life is here? My network, my condo, Your inflated sense of importance? I offered. Your golf club access, your nameplate on the parking spot? Yes, you'd lose all of that. I locked eyes with him. But you'd keep your job, your choice. Jared stared at the paper in front of him, his fingers trembling slightly. This is cruel, Selene, he whispered. Using your power like this, it's cruel. Cruel? I repeated, standing slowly. Like mocking my business at every family dinner was cruel? Like calling me a failure behind my back was cruel? Like suggesting I take a job as your assistant was cruel? Through the heavy door, I could still hear the party voices buzzing, music playing, the clink of glasses. No doubt they were still spinning the story, trying to rewrite history, pretending they'd always seen my potential. You have until New Year's to decide, I said as I walked toward the door. Oh, and Jared? I glanced back. That corner office you love so much? I'm turning it into a wellness lounge. His face twisted, but I didn't wait for a reply. When I returned to the party, my parents were huddled near the fireplace with Aunt Lillian and Uncle Russ. Their conversation died the moment I stepped into view. My mother moved forward, her arms stretched for a hug. Selene, sweetheart, we had no idea. All this time, and you've been so successful. Why didn't you tell us? I paused, stepping back slightly from her embrace. Would it have made a difference, Mom, if it wasn't flashy or public? Of course it would have, she said too quickly. We're your family. No, I said gently. You're people who share my last name. Family supports without needing proof. Family listens even when the story isn't impressive. My father cleared his throat. Celine, we may have misjudged some things, but we always wanted what was best for you. Did you? I asked. Or did you want what looked best to your tennis club circle? Michael Leyu approached just then, saving them from having to reply. Miss Preston, he said with a polite smile, I'll be heading out. We've got an early session tomorrow to go over integration. Of course, I said, returning the smile. My team will have the paperwork on your desk by 9. As he left, I heard my mother whisper to Aunt Lillian, Did you hear that? She has a team. And I nearly laughed out loud. Now they were proud. Now they were curious. Now that my success was loud enough for their social circles to applaud, they finally wanted to listen. Jared emerged from the hallway a few minutes later, dazed and unsteady, heading straight for the bar. He poured himself 2 fingers of bourbon with a trembling hand. The moment his glass hit the counter, a swarm of cousins and uncles surrounded him, asking questions he couldn't answer. For once he stayed silent. I gathered my clutch and coat. This wasn't how I had intended to reveal the truth. Not at a family gala. Not so publicly. But maybe that made it better. It was clean, final, impossible to dismiss. Leaving already? My father asked as I reached for the front door. But we've barely spoken. You must tell us more about your firm, your acquisitions, your team. I glanced at my watch. I've got a 6 a.m. flight to London, board meeting with a potential new acquisition. But it's Christmas, my mother cried. Yes, I said with a soft smile. And for the first time, you all truly understand why I won't be here. No more assumptions that I skipped family events out of shame. No more whisper campaigns suggesting I was broke, alone, or embarrassed. I'm leaving because I'm successful. Because I've built something extraordinary. And while you were too busy doubting me, I was too busy becoming someone who didn't need your belief. I paused at the door and turned one last time. Oh, and Jared, remember when you offered to put in a word for me at Altair? I let the moment hang. Don't worry about it. I think I'll manage. A look on his face nearly made up for a decade of condescension. Almost. As I drove down the long, oak-lined driveway, my phone buzzed with messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Congratulations, let's catch up. We always knew you were going places. I deleted every one of them. They say success is the best revenge, but they're wrong. The real victory isn't buying the company your cousin swore he'd run. It isn't outmaneuvering your entire family at their own game. The real victory is never needing their approval to begin with. 3 months later, Jared quietly accepted the Minneapolis position. My parents now introduce me as their visionary entrepreneur daughter, skipping the part where they once suggested I get an admin certification. As for me, I had just finalized another acquisition, a modest tech firm based in Savannah, Preston Dynamics, my father's retirement project, his pride and joy, the legacy he always dreamed Jared would lead. I had my assistant send over the ownership transfer letter. Sometimes silence says it best, especially when it comes with a header that reads, "From the desk of your tiny firm owner." If my story resonated with you, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment. Tell me if you've ever been underestimated, overlooked, or told your dreams were too small. What did you do about it? Your support means everything. I built something in silence, but now I'm speaking up, not just for me, but for everyone who's been dismissed. Share your advice, your experiences, or a message you wish someone had told you when you started. And if you believe in quiet strength and long game victories, hit subscribe. Let's keep proving that success doesn't need permission.